Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so I saw the trailer for the documentary short about the cruise from a year ago, and saw you guys were a part of that preview and got really excited. So, what has been your part in this documentary?
So I was an associate producer on the film. So I've been helping with the film since about May or June of last year. So I helped gather a lot of the footage, did a lot of fact checking, and just help with the story. And then putting pieces together for like the trailer and things like that. So quite a bit of involvement.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, I was really just part of it, like for the afterwards interviews and things of that nature.
That's really, really cool stuff, you guys. Have you seen the full piece yet? I know it debuts tonight or tomorrow. It debuts soon on HBO. Have you seen the full thing?
It debuts tonight. Actually, it's on right now. Actually, on HBO and HBO Max. So it I've seen it several times. Rebecca hasn't seen the full version yet.
Yeah.
But it actually debuted at South by Southwest a couple of weeks ago.
Great. Who came up with this idea? Who reached out to who on this project?
HBO reached out to us. So the director, Hannah Olsen, she was really interested in the story of people on the ship, and really just wanted to tell what you didn't see on the news. So what were passengers and crew experiencing on the ship. So she reached out, and I really liked what she had to say, and really thought that she could put this together really well.
And then was everything done just over video transfers and phone calls then?
Yeah, everything. It was a really unique way to put this together. So Hannah and a few photographers went around the country and did some of the interviews, but then they had to do some of the international interviews just by phone. So she would call and do those interviews. And then it was a lot of emails and IMs and phone calls, just trying to put together the footage.
Absolutely. So it's been now more than a year since that cruise and you guys are back home and everything. How are you doing now, Rebecca? How are you feeling? Has there been any lingering effects of COVID-19?
No, I haven't had any lingering effects to speak of from COVID, so I'm glad of that. So in that aspect, doing really well, have completely recovered.
Awesome. And then you tested positive, but it was a false negative back a year ago?
I never did test positive.
Yeah.
So I was tested quite a few times. And it was unusual because we were in the same cabin. But never positive.
Yeah, it's an interesting how it all goes without. Kitty's the best part of Zoom calls, absolutely. And then so everything is going well now. Again, it's been more than a year, and is life just pretty much back to normal for you guys?
More or less, yeah. I'm still working from home and probably will be through the fall, at least, if not just full-time permanently. And so, yeah. And
as normal as normal can be these days. So, yep.
Definitely, absolutely. What was the most exciting and or fun thing about helping with this documentary?
So just working on the film in general. So I do have some history working on short films here in the Portland area. But really getting to work with a much larger studio and being able to see a lot of the behind the scenes, how they work, and just seeing other people's footage. So it's one of the things that we didn't really get to see at all, was how other people were coping with this, and how the crew in particular were doing, because you never really get to see what they do even in a normal situation, because they aren't really allowed to talk with you about how you're doing, because they're always putting on a brave face and everything. So I think just seeing from their perspective is very interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, the same. Just being able to see the perspective from the crew is really very interesting. And I think one of the things that this documentary highlights really well.
What is the number one thing you want viewers, people who watch this, to take away when they're done watching it?
I would say something to take away. What do you think?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is just how differently on the ship that the Japanese government and versus how the U.S. government was handling things. If you look at the film, there are people boarding the ship in full hazmat suits and everything, while back in the U.S., things are just normal, no even masks, and they were actually even telling us for a period of time, you didn't need to buy a mask, you don't need to wear a mask. And so just how different perspectives, and really listening to the scientists and people that really know how to approach things, and how really delayed that the US was versus the rest of the world. And so I think it's a very cautious tale about what needs to happen if this something like this does happen again, how it needs to be approached.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good insight into what can happen when you're completely unprepared for something like this. And hopefully what people can take away is they've learned from that mistake, so to speak, so that we don't ever have to repeat that exact situation ever again.
Yeah, that's very understandable. That really does it for the questions that I had prepared. Is there anything else you would like to add or talk about about this documentary?
I think just the big take home why people should really watch the film is it provides a very unique perspective from the passengers and the crew. The film is largely based on film that we all recorded while we're on board. And so it's this very interesting inside look as far as like maybe some excitement, and actually even the mundane of what it was like those during that time period. You even get to see some shots of people being evacuated on the repatriation flights, and it's just a different perspective than what you've actually seen on the news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gives you an inside look from the actual perspective of the passengers and crew versus some outside source.
All right. I definitely am looking forward to watching it. Thank you guys so much for your time this evening. And yeah, if you guys think of anything else or anything else pops up, just give us a call or an email.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it just showed up on Max.